Now the third aspect of TEMPUR Adapt is motion separation. And the amount of pop or wow factor I can get from a motion separation demonstration really comes down to the discovery questions that I ask of my customers. And the question that I've asked the most often, that I hear asked the most often, do either of you toss and turn, and when you do, does that disturb your partner's sleep? Except, what I've learned the hard way is that when I ask a situational question, I get a situational answer. That means the customer thinks about the exact little scenario that I just painted, and they can only answer to that exact scenario. So I started to think outside the box a little bit and try to come up with some more real-life questions to ask couples that might expose some issues that they might be having with motion separation. Questions like, do either of you work a different shift? Maybe she heads to bed at 10:30 and he works until midnight every single night. So he gets off work, drives home, winds down, and he gets into bed at 1:30 a.m. and every time he does, it wakes her up. That's a problem. Or, more commonly, do both of you always go to bed at the same time? Are either of you a night owl? Right? Maybe he heads to bed at 10 p.m. every night, and she's up watching Sports Center until 11:30, and then she winds down and comes to bed, and every time she gets into bed, that wakes him up. Now, your associates will probably have better questions than that. But the point is to get to some real-world questions that we can ask customers that are going to kind of make that come alive. So once that happens, the demo is going to look like this. We have her lying down on the bed. I'm actually going to ask you to roll on your side facing that way for me. Then we're going to have Daniel come in. And Daniel, what I'd like you to do is simply get into bed the way you would normally get into bed. Maybe you got up in the middle of the night, got a drink of water, and now you're coming back and you're going to get into bed. Okay? And I'm going to bet that you barely felt him get into bed. Is that right?
That's correct.
That's correct. There we go. And that is the demo. It's really pretty easy. And notice that I did not go to her and say, did you feel Daniel get into bed? Because there's a pretty good chance she would have said, yeah, I felt him get into bed. I mean, that doesn't help anybody, and it doesn't move the sale forward. We want to think of ourselves as the good attorney, the customer is the witness on the stand, because a good attorney never asks a question that they don't already know the answer to. That's why the question wasn't, did you feel Daniel get into bed? The question was, you should have barely felt him get into bed. Is that right? There's only two possible answers. You're right, I barely felt him get into bed, which is the answer I got, or I didn't feel him get into bed at all. Both of those answers give me wow factor and move the sale forward. And if she's having issues with motion disturbance, keeping her or waking her up or keeping her awake, this is going to be a huge demo because she just felt the product that is going to solve that problem for her.